We're back, and this next story is about the storm chasers. You've probably seen their exploits on cable at night on no fewer than 3 or so channels. You've definitely seen their work. When most rational, sane people are leaving a storm zone, they are the men and women going in. The upside is you've seen their work in this storm. They'll leave us with the videotape record of this storm and others. One such storm chaser story tonight from NBC's Lester Holt.
Eastern Mississippi, Wednesday afternoon. Dark clouds gather. To the trained eye behind the camera, it's clear this could be very bad.
It's producing. It could produce right now.
Watch as the winds begin to swirl. And then something rarely caught on camera. Out of thin air, a tornado is born. Instead of seeking shelter, the cameraman guns it, racing towards a storm that would eventually devastate parts of Alabama later in the day.
Large tornado.
24-year-old Andy Gabrielson is a storm chaser. He's been on the hunt for the perfect storm for 9 years. Of the 200 tornadoes he's seen, he says this was one of the most dramatic.
I could hear the wind whipping against my car.
During tornado season, he leaves home in Minnesota and moves to the plains near the action. His car is outfitted for the chase, cameras mounted, laptop installed on the dash.
I had my map pulled up so I knew where I was going. I turned all my cameras on. I just basically immediately getting into the car, it's like push, 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 spin, turn. Within less than a minute probably, it increased 10 times. The power of a tornado is something that it's very hard to describe. It can be very frightening. It completely just take your breath away.
Those sparks aren't lightning. They're electrical transformers erupting and power lines collapsing.
I've got trees falling. I've got, the wind was probably 50, 60 miles an hour. I can see the funnel itself just tearing into the ground, just absolutely ripping stuff up. I have a respect. I don't know that I have a fear. I feel like if I had a fear, I wouldn't storm chase.
Soon, Andy will be out there again, chasing. Tornado season is just getting started.
And let's talk about tornadoes, the raw material for the storm chasers. Jim Cantori of the Weather Channel has been nice enough to join us tonight after nonstop coverage these past 2 days. Let's talk about this science. There's a lot of raw material out there. There's some myths in the tornado business. No urban areas, that they don't survive across mountains or hills. And the weather's been so violent lately, all those myths have gone by the boards.
Well, they have. We can start last year with New York City. We had a tornado in New York City. Absolutely. It was a week ago tonight, probably at this very time. Lambert Field in St. Louis and the surrounding neighborhoods were getting hammered as well.
What's happening to our weather?
There's more storms out there. And you know what? Anyone with a phone is a cameraman. So you're going to document more storms. So I think that is attributing certainly the inflated totals. But cities have never been immune, nor have mountains, to storms. And with such a juiced up jet stream that we've had all winter, remember 700 inches of snow at Squaw, we had houses buried 30 feet under snow. All we did was fast forward into April. We've had a record warmth, instability, active jet stream equals a recipe for disaster, and we've seen that.
This is, it seems to me, something else entirely. You and I were talking earlier. At the center of the tornado that came through here, at the center of a big storm like Katrina, it is basically as much energy as nature can produce on Earth, correct?
The kind of tornadoes that move through on the April 27th make up 0.4% of all the tornadoes. And in this country, that's about 1,300 a year, which we have really added to, especially this past month. A historic month with May coming. That's a scary thing.
Is the definition of tornado alley changing? Traditionally, I lived and worked out in Kansas, Missouri, Oklahoma. That was what we always thought was where they were going to pop up. We're in Alabama.
And that's April. Dixie Alley, as we call it in the South, is March, Aprl time. This is performed above anyone's expectations. And like most meteorologists, never did we think we would ever surpass the death toll of the super outbreak, especially with today's technology and getting the word out so much faster. But you needed to be underground for the kind of storms that move through here.
And back up to the previous question, the people who have been watching this coverage saying it's something we're doing It's got to be something we're doing, because we didn't have weather like this when I was a kid. We didn't have weather like this a few years ago. What do you say to them?
Well, the scientist says we can't prove anything yet. But the human in me says, okay, if it's raining harder and if the Earth is warmer, which we know it is, then the jet stream and everything else is trying to compensate for that. And extremes will eventually wind up as more extremes. And as you can see, that's pretty extreme.
Jim Cantore, always a pleasure. Thanks for
Sir.
joining us here tonight. When we come back here tonight, a doctor trying to protect his patients and his own son at the same time.